Let me express my appreciation, first of all, to the outstanding president who drum majors this revolutionary movement known as Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. I don't know about you, but during this luncheon, I have felt like I've been in on a planning session for a revolution to take over this country. And so I'm just glad to say, I'm going to put it on my resume that I was here for the revolution. And so I want to salute you in the name of the great Shirley Chisholm for the work that you are continuing. I cannot tell you how hyped and excited I am about seeing a Delta running in every state, in every election. That's called a takeover.
Yes.
So, I am super hyped about that. I'll be praying about that and doing all I can to support that. As long as they say Delta on the ballot, then boom, I'm voting for you. So, that's a part of that revolution. So I salute the president for your amazing work and for your leadership that is laudable. I also want to tip off my hat symbolically and salute to all of the past presidents who are legends and icons of leadership. And I'm really excited because I just discovered in this luncheon during the revolutionary planning that one of the past presidents, Dr. Rice, is from Augusta, Georgia. My grandmother, Sweetie, was from Augusta, Georgia, and we've discovered there's some blood connection there. So my cousin is a past president of Delta Sigma Theta. So I'm feeling this thing. So I'm married to a Delta, the son of a Delta, and the cousin of a Delta.
All right.
I'm indeed honored and happy to be here and salute again all of our distinguished leaders and thank God for what the Deltas continue to do. The Reverend Siobhan Arline Bradley is my sister, and so that's why she was so overly hyperbolic and generous with her introduction. So just pray for her because I did too, as she was up here lying about me. And then I need you to pray for me because I like the way she lied about me. So I salute her, but I think you also know, like the devil in hell, that she can preach the horns off of me.
Yes.
Preaching phenom. I've discovered if I want to have good preaching at Friendship West, just invite a Delta. Because Deltas have a way of coming through. Sujay came through our church a few years ago, and we were in construction, and so she demolished the place, and so I just can't have her back because she don't know how to act. But I thank God for Sujay, who is a legend and a gift. My bishop is, I'm a Baptist, but my bishop is Vashti McKenzie. So I heard what she did yesterday, which is what she does. What she does. So I salute her, and then I see my sister, Leona Bridges. I thank God for you. Leona is Miss Delta, so I just thank God for her and for her warm witness. And of course, I cannot even begin this message without saluting my president, Dr. Everett Ward, the man himself. I salute you and applaud you. And you will be happy to know that under his leadership, that Alpha Phi Alpha has picked up the baton of social justice. And I just want to salute you, man, for that. It's something about Alpha Phi Alpha, the fraternity of Martin Luther King Jr., picking up the baton of social justice. And so I thank you for doing that because we had dropped it, but he has picked it up. And for that, I am grateful. I love your theme, the power of our voice. The power of our voice as we lift up our legacy and strengthen our democracy. I want to lift up that theme in these few moments I am blessed to share with you. The power of our voice as we continue our legacy and strengthen our democracy. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, in his wonderful work where he extrapolates and interprets the meaning of the drum major for justice, Martin Luther King Jr., I may not get there with you, shares a suggestive story from the transcript of the life of the drum major for love and justice, Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King had decided in the aftermath of the uprising that had taken place in Los Angeles, California in 1965, just 1 week after the passage of the Voting Rights Act, that it was necessary to understand the relationship, the unholy wedlock, the illicit relationship between poverty and systemic injustice. And as a consequence, Martin King took the civil rights movement, which had become the second American Revolution, to Chicago, where there in Chicago on the west side, he took up residence with his beloved wife Coretta in the slums there in Chicago's west side. And you recall perhaps what happened. He moves into an apartment complex that is riddled with rats and roaches. He moves into an apartment complex where he pays more in that roach and rat infested apartment complex than someone paying for an apartment on the north side of Chicago. He is exposing how racism and impoverishment have united in unholy wedlock. During the process, as you know, Martin King leads a march. During the march, a person who has neck issues, they're red, decide that they will indeed disrespect the drum major for love, who had already received the Nobel Peace Prize and had already been named as Time Magazine's Man of the Year. But this racist redneck had the arrogant audacity to spit on Dr. King. According to Michael Eric Dyson, when this racist spat on Dr. King wiped the spit off of his face, but then he noticed that one of the bros from the hood on the west side in Chicago was about to retaliate. And when he did, Dr. King stopped him and said, "Why are you going to hit him?" He said, "Because he spat on you." Dr. King said, "But don't you know that there is a system that is spitting on you every single day with policies that spit on your humanity, policies that spit on your dignities, policies that let you know that you are a second-class citizen?" And my sisters and brothers, at that moment, Dr. King helped that young brother to see that worse than being spat on with physical spit is to be spat on by a system that disrespects your humanity. And with that being the case, Dr. King understood the power of public policy, because we see it every day, spitting on our humanity. Even in 2020, we spit, the policy spit on our humanity when we discovered that white school districts in this nation receive $23 billion more on average than school districts that are inhabited by students of ebony hue. That is spitting on our educational possibilities. I'm suggesting that the spit continues. The spit continues, my dear sisters, when we see in this nation that, yes, when you go to the bank, you will find yourself being victimized by higher interest rates than people that don't look like you. That is spitting on your economic possibilities. It was discovered even when we look at the whole student loan crises that if you go to a PWI institution versus an HBCU, you are more likely to get a lower interest rate going to a PWI than an HBCU. I'm just trying to let you know that you're spitting on our educational aspirations. they spit on us, when they populate our neighborhoods and our communities with landfills. That is spitting on our health. They are spitting on our humanity because of the fact that racism in this country no longer is seen in Jim and Jane Crow signs of white only and colored only, but instead there are unofficial signs up, and the unofficial signs remind us that we live still in communities that are economically segregated, and so they continue to spit on our humanity. And as they spit on our humanity, I'm reminded of the genius of W.E.B. Du Bois, who talked about the veil that keeps us from getting beyond that veil to a place of privilege and possibility. Y'all didn't get it. I'll see if I can make it real plain. Last year in December, I had the privilege of addressing the Conference of National Black Churches, and the conference was dealing with economic justice, and so that was my topic. I did my best to extrapolate the theme. During the course of extrapolating the theme, I noticed the puzzled look of one in the audience who evidently was not feeling the message. Of course, his skin has not been kissed by nature's sun, and so immediately he comes up to speak to me, Dr. Cole, afterwards, and he says, I was intrigued by what you shared, but there are some things I'm bothered by. I own a building 2 blocks down the street. Would you mind meeting me for breakfast in the morning? We can meet at 7:30 if you have time. I said, cool in the gang. And so early the next morning, here's what happened, Dr. Ward. I made my way down the street. It's Atlanta in December and it's cold. On top of that, rain is coming down, pelting the sidewalk. And so I begin strolling down the sidewalk, but the cold, frigid temperatures caused me to pick up my pace to a jog, and then the jog set me up for running like I was Usain Bolt running the 100-meter dash. I finally arrived at the building, and this, Dr. Ward, is what happened. I arrived at this building. It's a high-rise downtown ATL, and once I arrive at that high-rise, I pull the door to open it, but the door is locked. Hold on. The door is locked, Sue J. It's cold outside. The rain is coming down. I pull the door, but the door will not open. It is locked. I'm not done because inside I can see it's a glass building. Inside there are people that don't look like me, and here's what's going on. They're inside the structure of privilege, and they're engaged in conversation, and they don't even recognize I'm outside. Well, I'm not going to stand outside. My mama's a Delta. My wife is a Delta. I'm not going to stand outside and let you act like I'm not here.
That's
and
right.
so I began to bang on that window, saying, you're not going to let me stay out here like this. And you know what happened? They looked at me and continued to have their conversation. Now, I might as well tell you, please don't judge me. Yes, I'm a preacher. I love me some Jesus, but I would have been Peter if I was following Jesus. I cannot lie and deny, Madam President. I began to speak in an unknown tongue. I'm knocking on the door, speaking in an unknown tongue, because I cannot believe I am locked out of the structure. They're inside the structure of privilege, and they're ignoring my plight. They are inside the structure of advantage, and they are ignoring my plight. It dawned on me that my dear sisters, is an illustration. It's a metaphor for what it means to be black in these disunited states of America, and that is we still find ourselves locked outside the structures of privilege, and we knock and we knock, and those who are on the inside continue to enjoy their privilege. No wonder Lauryn Hill said black rage is founded on blatant denial, squeezed economics, subsistence survival, deafening silence, and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds on the soul. Our souls are wounded because because we're behind the veil. We're locked outside the palace of privilege and advantage in these disunited states of America. But here come the Deltas to Washington, D.C.
Hello.
Deltas here in Washington, D.C. are raising the power of our voice, continuing our legacy in order to strengthen our democracy. Is that not necessary today? Because we are witnessing the dismantling of democracy and, in a real sense, the facilitating of fascism because of the lying king there on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And my sisters and brothers, as the lying king engages now in his campaign of retaliation, we find ourselves witnessing the dismantling of our democracy. But I'm so glad that just as it has been in our history, black women are coming to save the day.
Yes.
To strengthen our democracy. And I'm glad about that, Deltas, that you were here igniting this revolution. And y'all, I was trying to figure out how to unpack this, and I feel the spirit so strong. I'm trying not to preach, but I can't help but at least lift up the text, because there is a text I've got to lift up.
You better preach.
In this text, you can check it out when you get back to your respective places.
Yes.
It starts in Numbers chapter 27.
Yes.
There are 5 sisters. These 5 sisters are bad. These 5 sisters must have been dressed in red and white. I can see these 5 sisters dressed in red and white because, you know, by way of context, Numbers means they're on their way to the promised land.
Yes.
And on their way to the promised land, these sisters who are descendants of Manasseh and the African honey that is Manasseh and Joseph and the African honey that Joseph had married. And the book lets us know that on their way to the promised land, their daddy dies. And when daddy died, these 5 women are going to be denied real estate and property in the promised land. But oh, hallelujah, I see them in their red and white as they go to the tent of meeting. And Sujay, you know what they did. They go to the tent of meeting and they say, yo, Mo, you mean to tell us that we're not going to get our father's property in the promised land because of how God created us? You mean to tell us that we are going to be victimized by injustice in the promised land? We're not going to get to own real estate in the promised land? And Moses says, you know what? Let me talk to God. God says, you know, the sisters got a point. And they're going to be the first to own property in the promised land. Y'all missed the shout. These sisters, during the time of toxic masculinity, during a time of blatant sexism and patriarchy, during a time of patrilinealism, the Bible lets us know these sisters, they stood up, they used their voice, and then they used the power of their voice and continued their legacy. They changed the game.
Yes. Yes.
Deltas, and that is in the spirit of the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. The spirit of those daughters, you've come to Washington, D.C., and you've come here to change the game. You've come here because we ought not be settling for being locked out of the palace of privilege. We've come to change the game. Well, what does that look like? I love it because when I look at these sisters, note with me, they don't have any position. They go up to Moses, who has position, but they teach us you ain't got to have position to have power.
There you go, my brother.
God will bless you with power, even if you don't have position.
Yes.
I'll see if I can help y'all. Y'all do know that it was Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln. They had position, but Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman had power.
Yes.
Wilson had position. Ida B. Wells had the power.
Yes.
You know, my sisters, that the bus driver in 1955 who told Rosa Parks she had to get up and had her arrested, he had position. But Rosa Parks had the power.
Yes.
Mission was shout. Lyndon Johnson had position, but Fannie Lou Hamer had the power.
Power.
Richard Nixon had position, but Shirley Chisholm had the power. I gotta give it to y'all. Tomorrow when you go to congressional offices, they've got position, but y'all better know.
Yes. Power.
Delta's got the power.
Yes.
And so I love this.
Oh my gosh.
Since you have the power even without position, I love what we learn from these sisters in red in scripture. The text lets us know that there were things we can learn from them. I like the first lesson. The first lesson simply says this, and it makes me want to shout, but I'm going to try to calm down because y'all make me want to shout up in here.
Shout.
My dear sisters, see what happens. These sisters have the audacity and the agency with an agenda to
Yes.
people in power and tell them in the name of God and the God of justice what should be and what should not be. I didn't say that like I want to. Let me see if I can back up and give it to y'all like this. These sisters have the audacity and the agency to bring an agenda, and when they bring this agenda, they say, Moses, I know what has been. I know this has been a patriarchal movement, but you ain't having this movement without sisters. After all, Moses, you better recognize yourself. You wouldn't be here had it not been for sisters. You would not be here had it not been for women. I guess y'all don't know the story of Moses. Moses, here's the deal. Moses wasn't supposed to be born because the text lets us know that Pharaoh had decided genocide of all little boys. But Moses had a mama. She had to be a Delta. And that mama had my boy killed. And on top of that, there were some Egyptian sisters. I know they were Deltas. These Egyptian sisters said, no, we ain't killing these little boys. We about life and not death. And y'all know what happened. Moses was born, and 3 months into his life, his mama says, I can't hide you no more. And she creatively makes a basket and sets him there on the Nile River. What he was supposed to drown in, he's riding over. That's a shout right there.
Yes. Yes, my brother.
Riding over what he was supposed to drown in. And here comes this African princess down at the Nile River to take a bath. At that moment, Moses cries. When Moses cries, the African princess, her heart goes out to the baby and says to her servant, go get a Hebrew woman to make sure they nurse this child. I'll raise him myself. And y'all know that woman went and got Moses' mama. And so Moses' mama gets paid by the empire to nurse her own child because God is so good. God can use the wrong folk.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So Moses, you make sure that you know that the only reason you're Moses is because of women. And y'all, I'm gonna park right here and say to every brother in the house, Brother Everett, it's you and me. And that is, we owe so much to our amazing black women. And this nation better recognize.
Thank you,
Democratic
Pastor.
Party better recognize.
Thank you, Pastor.
There is no pathway to the Democratic nomination unless you go through black women.
Yes.
There is no pathway. There is no way for the Democrats to win the presidency of the United States unless you have the support and energy of black women. And so since you need black women, you better put some respect on your policies and make sure you listen to black women. Make sure that black women are given responsibilities of leadership because you ain't gonna make it without black women. You don't make it without black women. And And so I love this. I love this because these bad sisters go up to Moses and they tell Moses, we are here to change the system. We are here to make a difference. I'll see if I can help y'all with this. Last week I was privileged. The Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference met here in D.C. And when we met here in D.C., our guest on Wednesday morning was the incomparable Stacey Abrams. That's the bad sister right there. And y'all, Stacey Abrams spoke, and when I tell y'all, she killed us dead, because Stacey Abrams got up and transparently testified that she had been through one of the worst experiences ever. You know the story. Stacey Abrams ran for governor. She won the race, but because the Secretary of State was also the governor, that's like getting in a boxing ring and not just fighting the opponent, but the referee and the scorekeeper. It's like there was no way she could win because it was set up for her to lose. But y'all know what happened. She said she went through the stages of grief, and she said she particularly enjoyed the anger stage because she was angry. And let me just say, there's some stuff you ought to be angry about. You ought to be angry about injustice. You ought to be angry about the fact that, as the sister said earlier, in 2020 on the Democratic stage now, there is not one person of color, not one black person, even though Democrats can't make it without us. You ought to be angry about racism, sexism, injustice, all isms that need to become wasn't. We ought to be angry. But look what Stacey said. She said, I enjoyed the anger stage, but after I got through the last stage, I had to create a new stage. Guess what she said the new stage is? She said, I went into plotting. Plotting is the next stage. And y'all, it dawned on me that black folk who live with perennial grief and sorrow in this country, we must go to plotting. It's time for us to start plotting. That's why I started shouting when I thought about what you are doing in putting deltas in every section to run for public office. Y'all got a plot going on in here. And y'all, with the plot going on, the plot means it's time to plot. It's time to plot, because that's what black women have always done. Plot like Harriet Tubman, because Harriet plotted to get free. And once she got free, she plotted to go back down south and free other folk. Y'all get shout. Plot like Ida B. Wells, because Ida B. Wells plotted to end the lynching of black bodies that hung like strange fruit on southern trees. Plot, my sisters, like the one and only Fannie Lou Hamer, who in 1964 goes to Atlantic City and declares her right to be a first-class citizen. Plot, my sisters, like the mother of Emmett Till, who decided, I'm not going to have a closed casket funeral. I'm going to open up this casket to expose the hypocrisy of America's practice of democracy. So you plot on, sisters, because that's what, when things happen, when sisters start to plot, liberation happens. When sisters start to plot, revolution happens. When sisters start to plot, our families get together. When sisters start to plot, our churches pull it together. When sisters start to plot, our communities can rise up. So plot on, Deltas, plot on, because our future is in the plotting on the Deltas. I got to give you something else. I love this because the text says they go to Moses. And when they go to Moses, Moses says, yeah, y'all right. God just told us. And then they have their inheritance. But you do know there is no such thing as a permanent victory. There's no such thing as a permanent victory, because once they get the land deed of trust, the text says that there are some men in the group. I guess I got to quote you, Dr. Cole. Dr. Cole said, all our skin folk ain't our kinfolk. Everybody our color ain't our kind. I think you said that, didn't you, Doc? And so with that being the case, the bros, oh my God, the bros come at the sisters and say to Moses, no, Mo, we can't have it like this, because if they marry outside the tribe, then we're going to lose our property. And so Moses falls for the okie doke. But then Moses dies, and when Moses dies, Joshua takes over. So rush to chapter 17, and that's where the shout is on, because these same 5 sisters dressed in red, they go to Joshua and say, yo, Josh, here's the deal. God told us that we're supposed to have this land, and they ignored totally what had been done to undermine their heritage. They said, God told us we deserve this land, so give it up. And Joshua said, cool in the gang, and gave the land to the sisters. Why? Because the sisters recognize there are no permanent victories, so you keep on fighting, you keep on pushing, you keep on doing what's right, in spite of the fact that others come at you and do what's wrong. Because Langston Hughes is right when he gets inside the head and spirit of a mother and says, well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, splinters, boards torn up, places with no carpet on the floor, bare, but all the while I've been a climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no lights. Boy, don't you quit now. Don't you sit down on them steps because you find it's kind of hard. I still climbing, I still going, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And so the fight continues, the struggle continues, but because the sister stood up and spoke up, the Bible says they got their land in the promised land. They got their real estate in the promised land. And Renita Weems says, whenever you go over into the promised land, just look at some land and say that land belongs to a sister. In spite of patriarchy, in spite of sexism, they still own the land. And all I'm trying to let you know is that, sisters, you will have the last word, because God is on your side. You will have the last word, because God is going to speak and stand with you and stand for you. I'm still not coming through, and I know what's going on, and it's making me want to shout right now. My shout is in my spirit, because I'm speaking to deltas, and dynamic deltas know how to hear a message. I love it, because y'all listen, but you listen with an energy that says, I've come to shout. That's basically what y'all are doing. Y'all are listening, but y'all really want to shout, but because you're listening, you refuse to shout, because in your listening, you're thinking. And listen, here's what's going on. Y'all are thinking, and I feel the thinking, because what you're thinking is, well, Freddie, I know you ain't going to sit down before you tell us what happened to you in Atlanta, because you told us that you were outside the structure cussing in Atlanta. Do you really think we're going to let you sit down until you tell us what happened in the ATL? Well, since y'all thinking, I might as well tell y'all what happened. I'm standing out there, and y'all, I'm knocking and cussing. And finally, Mr. President, I discovered cussing ain't gonna open up that door. But I did have, here it is, the phone number of the owner of the building. And so I called him up, or I got ready to call him. And Leona, do you know, when I'm getting ready to call him, his phone number comes through my phone. On the caller ID, I said, hello. He said, Dr. Haynes, are you here? I said, yeah, I'm outside here. I ain't here. I'm outside here in this cold weather. He said, are you serious? Well, knock on the door. I forgot to tell you, the building does not unlock until 8 o'clock, but there are people downstairs. I said, yeah, but they don't have home training because they will not open up the door. He said, are you serious? They won't open up the door? I said, yeah, they won't open up the door. He said, well, I'm coming down to let you in myself. I said, cool, you missed your shout. The owner of the building said, I'm going to come down and open up the door myself. I'll help you in just a moment. I know you're ready to shout, because I'm expecting him to come through the building. No, he goes outside, comes down all the way through the garage, and then stands next to me. We shook hands, and when we shook hands, he then said, now knock on the door. Because when you knock on the door, they're not just going gonna see you. They gonna see the one who owns the building. They gonna see the one who runs everything. So you knock on the door, and I'm standing right here with you, Deltas. Y'all about to hit Capitol Hill, but you ain't going by yourself, because the one who owns everything is going with you. And if the one who owns everything, you knock on that door and you tell them, I'm here in the name of the one who owns the building. And when you knock on the door, doors will open. When you knock on the door, opportunity will happen.